I think he's subtracting instead of adding.
Oh yeah, for time.
Okay.
Okay, recording's going, and welcome everybody. This is CircuitPython Weekly, September 18th. This is something we try to do every week, where Dan, I, who work for Adafruit on CircuitPython, and other members of the community hop in, and we just talk about what we're working on, answer questions about CircuitPython and all that. So this is the first attempt at recording it, and seeing how that goes so that anybody who can't listen to it as we do it can watch it after the fact. So why don't we just start with a quick round of what everybody's working on and kind of status update. And I'll start. What have I been doing? um, lots of odds and ends, pull requests and stuff. I created a Gemma M0 repository for examples, which hopefully will get them in there. The Learn system will actually support including code from GitHub hopefully this week. So we'll be able to actually put all of the Learn guide code in one repo, which will be super cool. Besides that, I'm working on the 3.0, which is mainly the ASF4 work to enable the Cortex M4 SAMD51. I've got the M4 REPL working, but the M0 REPL is not working. So that's what I'm focused on now, is just getting that going. And then lastly, I'm in New York Thursday through Tuesday. So it's going to be kind of a short, weird week for me for the next 3 weeks, because I go to the Open Hardware Summit 3 weeks or so or 2 weeks from Wednesday. Yeah. Dan, how about you?
So I've been working, besides, last week I fixed some last minute bugs. There was a problem with analog in because of the temperature stuff, because analog in assumed that it was the master of the ADC, the analog to digital converter, and that's not true anymore.
Right.
So I made it reset itself all the time. That's not in 2.0.0, so I don't know if we want to cut another release or not to fix that.
Right. Um, I don't know. Like, have we heard any reports of it yet?
Well, yeah, because Lemore wrote a test program and she made a break. And it
Yeah.
was just so anybody who's trying to use temperature and then tries to use analog in, it will break. You'll get wrong answers from analog in. So
Okay.
I think it's probably important. Uh,
Yeah. Should we try to do that by the shows on Wednesday then?
yeah, like if there's see if there's anything else to, then we could bring in some other stuff.
Right. I can't.
And
Can you think of other stuff to do?
no, so maybe there isn't anything else. But I
I'm,
just if anybody has, do you need to change anything like to get SD card stuff working? And do you think that's all library code, or is
yeah, I
that
think it's all library.
okay? It's not firmware. Okay,
Yeah, I don't think so.
that's the only other outstanding bunch of bugs that I know about. And I built a new bundle, but I think maybe there's still one of the libraries that didn't get in there or something. So we might need to build another
Oh,
library bundle again.
right,
Yeah.
the Max one.
Yes. Yeah. So we could do that again. And uh, Mike McWethy's, right, we saw that. So we should
Mm-hmm.
get back with him and see whether we should bring that stuff in before we build a new bundle in the next day. But
Yeah.
otherwise, we should by tomorrow, I guess, or something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the DHT lib. I forked it for Adafruit because it looks really good. Um,
Okay.
and there's a read the docs that's not linked from the CircuitPython docs yet, but the repo is there as
Okay.
a subproject called DHT. Do you know anything about the bug he's asking about? Like
No, it's just I didn't know. Maybe could he possibly be violating a convention? I mean, the way MPY cross works, it'll build anything.
right,
It'll turn any pie it finds. And so I had it at least in some cases, I had it like not like ignore certain files like the read the docs conf.py and stuff like that. So
Right.
maybe we need to come up with a convention for files that should not be in the library, and we should put that stuff in a special directory, or the stuff in the examples directory should not be in there, or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but I have to look at, I'll have to look at his repo, yeah, which I haven't done yet. So,
Yeah, I would love to come up with a standard place for examples so that we can create an examples tree within the bundle as well.
mhm.
Um, so maybe just an examples subfolder would be good for that.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Um,
I mean, it doesn't hurt right now for that stuff to be MPY'd. It just because it's not going to get
yeah,
important.
it's
Yeah,
just confusing in the bundle.
yeah, right.
Actually, having the extra folder though will actually change how you import it from the bundle.
Right, if there's an examples folder or something, yeah. So
Yeah,
we just have to think about that. Maybe we should see if there's some existence proofs of other things like that. So,
right.
and then the other thing,
Happy cat.
she wants to eat. We were away for 30 hours, and I left her some dry food, and she didn't eat any of it. She
Oh
doesn't like it.
no.
So now she's kind of hungry. So, but if I feed her too much at once, she'll throw up. So I have to like put her off. Uh, so she's kind of annoyed by that. All right. Now I shut the door and she won't bother me. Okay.
Yeah, I know how that is.
And then the other thing that I've been working on, which is not completely related to CircuitPython, but is that I'm cleaning up the Windows drivers, Windows 7 driver installer, as you've seen. And I think I have a
Right.
fix for all the problems that everybody has.
That'd be
And we're
amazing.
pleased about that. Yeah. So I spent a long time um, staring at USB traffic.
That's one of the reasons we hired you, right?
That's right. Right, right. For some reason, I'm considered an expert on this because I did it once. Okay, so,
Right.
um, and I think that was it. And there are a lot of like other minor things that we've been cleaning up.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, it would be kind of my goal is to get once I get the M4 REPL going, my hope is to actually get it checked in. Um, I actually reorganized. I don't know if you've looked at this. I want your opinion at some point on it, but I've moved main.c to the top level and split out all of the port stuff and also created a supervisor, like the notion of a supervisor,
Okay.
um, which is where like the LED status stuff went and the auto reload stuff went. So that I moved that out of Atmos AMD into the supervisor.
Okay.
Um, I like that structure so far. Um, I have a make file include there that does some fanciness about like if your port has the supervisor dot port like supervisor slash port dot c file or supervisor slash file system dot c file, it'll automatically use that instead of a stub it has internally. So I think that might be too magical, or it might just be good enough, like in terms of auto detecting basically if your port's implemented something or not. Um,
I see what you're saying. Right. As opposed to just actually putting a stub in a particular port. Is that what
right,
you? Okay.
right. Yeah, there's actually like at the top level, it's supervisor slash stubs or whatever.
Okay. All right.
Um, so I was playing around with that, and I like the idea that like, oh, you start with port.c, which basically is init and reset for the port, and then you have serial.c is like how do you get characters in and out and all that. Um, so I'm liking that so far. Obviously, I haven't made a ton of progress because the M0 and the M4 ports are really basic now. Like digital I/O works on the M4. I can make the light blink on and off, but time isn't implemented yet, so I can't make blinky.
Okay.
Um, but I feel like if I can get the REPLs going on both, and get the clocks set up, I can get that submitted and we can start to collaborate on it, which is a long time coming. But it's a huge change because I delete all of ASF3 and bring in ASF4.
Yeah.
And delete and comment out a lot of stuff that I don't need immediately. So it's definitely a work in progress, and it'll basically break master in terms of like being able to build it and run everything on it, which I think is okay because we have the 2x branch now and the 1x branch, but it still might confuse some people. I'd like it if Travis would still be green, but I'm not. I have to look and see why it's broken, see if that's feasible.
Well, do you feel that you've sort of had to hack up too much, like the way you're doing the USB stuff by looking in the USB cache, for instance, instead of finding out what the actual API should be? Or do you feel that's a workaround for a bug right now and you know the right thing to do?
I think the right thing to do is pretty clear. There's like a CDC read method. It's
Mm-hmm.
just returning the wrong thing. And I'm actually curious to see once I get the M0 going, whether I can just use it without that workaround. Because the code might be different between the two.
Uh-huh.
I think it is a little bit at least. So I'm okay basically unblocking us with that hack. I mean, it's got a comment there, so it'll be clear like where it's coming from. But
Have you tried with Atmail Start to build a very simple something that calls CDC read and it works? Or you haven't tried a
yes,
simple? Yes. Okay.
there's one example. There's a
Okay.
CDC echo example for the SAMD21. I downloaded it with a makefile, ran the makefile, and it didn't build.
Oh wow. All right.
Which we've emailed some folks at Microchip and be like, yeah, here's my questions. I tried to build it like and demonstrate the problem because when they call read, they also call read for 64 bytes. And that happens to align with like the size of the packets and stuff. So it's kind of a special case where it doesn't say it should be, like it should be more generic than that.
Yeah.
So it was going to be nice and like take their example and like break it by changing the size, but I couldn't get it to build. And I was like, whatever.
I don't understand how they think anybody is actually using this, but it's another story, I guess.
I don't know either. Like I've looked and I've seen very few resources on it. So we're kind of the pioneers in it, but
Okay.
if that's where they're going for their new chips, and we use their chips all the time, so I think it's worth putting the effort in. I think in general the design of it isn't too bad. Like the structure is a little weird, but it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
By having like the HAL and the HPL and then the higher level stuff. It's different, but it's okay. But I think some of the stuff where there's no comments or anything about what it should do, like CDC read calls like 6 functions down deep, and then there's this place where it's like doing a receive or something, and it's just it's not clear how they work all together.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I would like fix the code myself, but I'm like, I don't know where this code's used, so I'll just reach into the cache instead and
Okay.
not mess with it. So yeah, I mean that enables us to port more of the modules to ASF4, which is good. Like the digital I/O stuff worked pretty well straight off the bat, which was really nice. So yeah.
Do you feel like do you want to have a division of labor about, or we could sort of slice this. Like I could take the M0 and you could take the M4, or we should break it up into like, oh, you do digital I/O and I do analog I/O or something like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's kind of what I'm thinking.
the
Is that
latter.
like,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Do you have an M4 yet?
No, and I'm on the list.
Okay. Limor asked if I should make more, so I said yes, and I thought she was going to. So when we see them this weekend / next week, let's
Yeah,
just see.
we'll ask her about that. Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I I mean, it's useful to have people test it both on the M0 and the M4, but it's helpful to have both. And she
Yeah.
actually mentioned to me that they're starting to become available. Like she found some at Mouser, I think. So it's not going to be too long, I think, until at least something with it is out.
And that other guy who has one, right? You've been
Oh
consulting
yeah,
with.
the
Yeah.
forum person.
Yes.
Did I ever get back to them? Do I have to check that again?
You could check, but maybe he got USB to work, or I mean, who knows what he's doing. So
Yeah, I don't know. I was trying to give advice on how to debug it because like doing the clock output was really helpful when I was doing it. So I think that's a good way to go. In fact, that's what I probably need to do that with the M4 or the M0 and make sure all my clocks are what I expect.
okay. All right. So then, aside from that, this has been a long status, but that's what I'm up
Yeah.
to. So I should wrap up the installer stuff soon, and then we have to tell everybody to try it. But I've tested it several different ways, and Lamore has tested it, and it seems to work. So um, hopefully that'll be a support issue which goes away.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Jerry, do you want to, if you're doing anything, you want to say so?
Yeah, one thing I was away all week, so I didn't get a lot done. I started the week playing with that temperature log example, but then it looks like the documentation was updated to really explain how to do it. So, do you want an example of some sort of code, or is that really all set at this point?
I think the more examples and more places, the better.
Okay, well, I want to take it further than where it was, and like I said, really, all I did was took Don Blair's thing and changed a few lines anyway. So, but I wanted to make it more complete and add some error checking into it, and some other features. So I'll work on that. But it sounds like it's certainly not holding up 2.0 anymore, so I won't worry about that.
No, but I did send it to Lamore, and she was like, "Oh, that looks good."
Good. Yeah,
So
well, it works, and the example was very pretty straightforward. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, it helped get 2.0 out the door. So thank you for that.
There were two other questions I had. One that I ran into several times, and that is on my Linux box. I've noted, and it came up today. Somebody asked a question about it. It wasn't related, and I don't know if this is new or if it's just a lingering thing. Often, if I power up any one of the M0s, I'll always see the CircuitPython file system come up listed in the file manager if I have the GUI file manager up.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't auto mount, and if I just click on it in there, it auto mounts it and it mounts it and it's fine.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always auto mount. Is that something people have seen? Is that
I've seen that also. I didn't know. Actually, I didn't look at mount. You're right. It wasn't in the mount table.
It wasn't in the mount. And so if I try and actually CD into the directory, it won't let me until I mount it. So
right.
And I don't know if that's new or what. So I thought if I can work up some examples of it, I'll see if I can poke around at it and see if I didn't know if it was a setting somewhere that I had somehow changed or.
No, I've seen the same thing. Okay. And the other thing.
On Linux only?
On Linux, but I do all of my development right now on Linux. Right. And the other thing I'm seeing, which I thought seems new, but I don't know why it should be new, is that there seems to be a write delay on Linux as well, though not as long as on Windows.
Okay.
So now every time I copy a file or edit a file, I just type sync, and then it gets written.
Okay.
But it seems like it can take 10 or 20 seconds for it to actually write the file, and I've had trashed file systems on Linux as well.
What editor are you using?
Emacs.
Okay. Yeah.
So I tried Pico, but it was too painful. But I mean, there's two ways to do it. One is to just, sometimes I'm editing directly, and then I just type sync in some terminal window. And sometimes I've been editing the files on the Linux side and copying, like I copy the whole tree over. Like I have a shadow of the CircuitPy directory, like a copy of the CircuitPy, the whole directory locally, and I just edit in there, and then I do a CP-R and onto the real one, and then I say sync, and that's a sort of
That's
a
good to know. Yeah,
pattern of working. But it seems to be. I haven't had enough. I did a little bit of Googling and I couldn't find out anything where people were complaining about that. There's a way to mount it so that it gets flushed. You can mount it with the flush option and the sync. There's also a sync option, which right away. And I think flush is what they recommended flush, but I don't know how to do that. Set that up automatically for random USB drives. So I haven't yet tried to figure out a way of like recommending how to do this for people. So that's another thing to explore. But I just for right now just do sync.
Okay. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. And it's hasn't been too much an issue. I've been using Nano, which is pretty fast and in terms of it's pretty low level. But I'll keep that in mind, especially. The other thing and I don't know if it's worth trying to bring up, and that is it came up again today or yesterday, where somebody's trying to work on an M0, especially a non-express board, and they run out of memory right away. If you try to do anything with the OLED display, pretty much you can't do anything else other than And I don't know if there should be any more warnings or just sort of heads ups to people on that, or if we just deal with it when people ask questions. But it seems like it's probably going to come up more and more as people try and do stuff. That there just isn't enough memory to do a lot, especially when you start tossing in drivers.
Yeah. I don't know how much there is we can do about it.
Yeah.
I've taken a look a little bit, like a while back when I was looking at memory usage. I wrote a GDB script that actually can hook into every time there's a heap allocation or free, and you can create these charts of like all of the allocations over time. So like if you start up your board and it has a main.py file, you can basically record the entire heap interactions over that like main.py. So you can kind of get an idea what all of the heap data is used for, or heap space is used for, but I didn't see any like low-hanging fruit as far as like making the objects actually smaller.
Yeah, I didn't know. I wasn't suggesting that we could fix it. I was just didn't know if there should be some more caveats out in the guides or whatever that just sort of, tell people that this is, it's a pretty small system. I don't know. Maybe it's not worth it, and but just but people get confused a lot.
Right. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for the M4s to be available, because then we'll have a story on like, oh, you need that. You need to upgrade to this.
I mean, there's sort of two things. You can run out of memory when you're reading a .py file because the compilation runs out of memory.
Right.
Into bytecodes, and then you can run out of memory because your program uses up too much of memory, which I actually haven't seen so much. I mean, maybe for an OLED display, maybe for something that needs a big buffer, and then importing the MP. Even if you import an MPY, you can run out of memory.
Right.
If it's precompiled, then I have that problem. Like I have a project that it has a character LCD. It has some parsing code. It has uses the HID library, and it just doesn't fit. And I had to compile the stuff into the firmware where that works fine, but there is just no memory. And I looked at what's in the MPY files, and there really is not any excess stuff in there. Sometimes you can get rid of some strings, but there's just, you can compile a 100-line program and it turns into several thousand bytes, and that's it. And then you have 4 of those, and there's no more memory left. So it is really a problem. Do you think that maybe that we should give more? Maybe we could give some more error messages like you ran out of memory while you were importing, or something like that, which means maybe you should try to reduce your code size, or I don't know if we can distinguish between the compilation phase and the runtime. Was it obvious to you when you were running out of memory?
Well, I was just trying to. I'm used to it, so I sort of get used to looking at it. But it wasn't. No, I mean, it wasn't always. Well, no, it isn't always obvious because it. well, it depends on whether I guess whether you're importing the basic library or whether when you're trying to allocate some, run something inside. So, but again, I haven't really been paying that much attention to it now that I know it's going to happen. But I was trying to help somebody else who was trying to use one of the sensors and the OLED display, and basically said, "Don't do that. You're not going to get anywhere."
And were they using MPYs from the library bundle, and it was still ran out of memory?
No, they were using the. I think the is the SSD. That's an MPY, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
The 1306, I think, is an MPY.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it was loading okay, but there just wasn't room for both. I mean, he was using, but the CCS 811 is a .py. So
Right.
that may be so converting that to an MPY might help, and might squeak it by, but
Yeah.
there isn't much to go. But we could play with that a little bit.
The other thing we could think about is slimming down some of those libraries and really trying to make them minimal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if there's extra functionality we don't need.
Yeah. There's sometimes you don't really need to do right to left character writing or something like that.
Yeah, well, even the SSD doesn't. You can't even do character writing with the basic anymore at this point anyway. And that's where I tried using those for a while, but you have to go to the bitmap, and then by the time you got the bitmap fonts loaded and the SSD, there's just no room for anything else. So you can either you can have pretty characters and pictures on the screen and no sensors, or
right.
That's okay. I just wanted to raise it. It comes up from time to time, and if people come on here, then they can get help pretty quick or get some information. But somebody has to write into the forum and then wait for a response. It's just trying to figure a way to save people some time and struggling. But
yeah, we should think about it. I don't know how long the M0s will live after the M4s are readily available.
Right.
So it's just a thing that we have to think about basically for the next few months.
Well, and that's where, again, as long as maybe they'll just go away, but there are a lot of them out there now, and as long as people are using them, they should at least know that you gotta have reasonable expectations as to what they can do.
Right. And Arduino is an option, right? Like,
what's that?
Arduino is an option.
Oh, absolutely, and you can do a lot, in the Arduino.
Right.
So yeah, no, they're tremendously useful, and they're and even with CircuitPython, they're great things to be able to play with. But you just have to have reasonable expectations that it's really hard to drive an OLED display and do anything else.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, well, we should keep thinking that over. See if we can't figure out how to make it either less
Otherwise, I'm just
or...
poking and prodding things, trying to break things. So, let you know.
That's always good.
I'll play around with that. Trying to add the trinket aliases to the pins and see where I get with that.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
It sounded like you knew where to look already.
Yeah, I could have just made the change and tried it, but I just wanted to check, if it was intentional to try and keep the code size down or something like that. I mean, because it's not hard to just document it and say don't use the A0, right. But and that we may get to that point, but
yeah, I think it was just that when I added the pin names, I just did it based on the hardware.
Yeah,
like the actual silk screen, and then when Lamore came in, did the awesome guide,
this talk came out when I was playing with that little touch test that we were doing on the various boards, and I tried to finally do it on the trinket, and I got really confused.
Yeah,
I first tried to do it. Wait a minute.
Yeah, in general, I think it's good to have similar names across boards.
Yeah. Okay, I'll keep poking. Thanks.
Thank you, Katney.
Yeah. I've been working on the Circuit Playground APIs.
Yay!
Finding out that very quickly these are getting outside of my current knowledge base, and so I've had to start digging into learning a lot more. But implementing the speaker is nearly done. I just have to go through the changes that you suggested and get that working. So it's the first time I've ever written an API. So,
yay.
Other than that, I mean that's pretty much what I've been working on. I think is just trying to get the rest of the APIs done for the Circuit Playground Express.
Yeah, that'll be super useful. So, yay. Let me know if you need any help with that.
I
As
definitely
always.
will be letting you know, because I definitely do.
Yeah, and other people obviously here can help as well, especially when we're at Maker Faire and all that.
Right.
Cool. How about you, Kurt? Do you have anything you want to say?
Uh, I'm trying to get off my Feather Huzzah ESP2 8266 horse lately.
Why?
I just feel like I've been putting a lot of attention on it, and it's not an express board, so like Jerry talked about, the memory is a little bit of an issue, but at the I've got the other board that's an express board, so I just want to be able to be involved on more things, and I was looking at I2C and SPI stuff, and just seeing what's available and how difficult it is to work with a device that doesn't have a library. D, I think, touched on that when Kattni was looking at it. It might be a little bit out of my wheelhouse, but I wanted to try to mess with some I2C stuff and everything, since I got so many sensors laying around, 7-segment stuff laying around. I just wanted to see what I could do with the current build.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. And like the ESP8266 stuff you do is like super useful too, because we're pretty bad at paying attention to it. So it's nice that you're hammering on it while we're not.
Since it is CircuitPython is available for it, and eventually there will be some kind of Wi-Fi enabled Express M0 board or something of the like with more memory. We'll have a little bit of a head start.
Yeah, totally.
Really into that IoT stuff, and a bit of a foundation, and that would be cool.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what your opinion of the current state of things is, and where we could take it. It's definitely not top of my list right now, but it's definitely on my radar.
Right now I have Sigafus, which is Dan, right? Is Dan Sigafus?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
His real name is Dan as well.
I was trying to figure it out, but yeah, he's helping me with this Twitter API stuff, because I did the open weather stuff and it was pretty cut and dry. It was just a matter of figuring out how to handle the JSON data, bits and pieces out of it, getting just the temperature, getting just the current conditions or something like that. So after I had that figured out, I used to be really into Twitter, but I'm a little bit into it still now. But I was like, it'd be really cool if I could, have something happen if I got a new follower or someone liked one of my tweets or something. Right. So I looked at their API stuff, and there's a lot to it. It's not as just like, put your URL and your request and your API code in here and grab some of the JSON data. It's pretty elaborate. So trying to help me figure that out and kind of write a library for it. But I might run into a memory issue with just how much stuff Twitter wants you to do to be able to do API pulls and stuff like that. So
yep. Well, that's awesome. I'm excited to hear it. I'm excited to hear what you think and how easy it is and where you struggle and stuff, because I'd love it if we can make it easier. If it's not easy right now. I honestly haven't looked at that much.
Yeah, well, I mean, some things are, some things aren't, but
Yeah, hopefully I won't want to change it when I do look at it. If you're learning all this stuff, I shouldn't change it.
It's not a big deal, learn on the go.
I'm pretty bad about that. I get myself into trouble when I'm like, oh, I'll just change this now. I'll just change this. So
the changes are for the better. They're streamlining things, making things, simpler and take up less space and stuff like that. So, it's not like you're just changing it for kicks and gigs, and
yeah.
A lot of it's for uniformity and stuff too. So
yeah. I think being, I know you all know this, but like being consistent with CPython is a huge priority for me.
Right.
So that's a huge driver for a lot of the changes I do, is just making it consistent so people can just work up from CircuitPython all the way through CPython.
Kurt, have you tried to do stuff in just regular Python, CPython? Like you get the example working and then try porting it over.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what I do is I just see, okay, I don't know how to do this right off the bat. I'm just going to see what's available in CPython, and I even grab a library if I have to, and just see if it works, and then see where the errors are, and see if I can go through and this just uses it's instead of like JSON, it's a UJSON, or instead of request, it's uRequest, and see what kind of things can and cannot be used, and see if I can fix it or if it's going to go over my head or not.
Right. How similar are they?
Good example of just straight requests. But when I took the uRequest library from CPython, it works right off the bat. I don't have to do anything with it.
Nice.
So
like the example function that's in the README doc, like the HTTP get, I didn't have to do anything with that. It does the little ASCII art Star Wars thing that worked right off the bat too. So that was cool.
Yeah,
the example web page where it posted the pin statuses as a web page when you connected. I did that. That worked right off the bat.
That's awesome. It's
so
good to hear that it's. Yeah, MicroPython's done a really great job. Like Damien and all of the other volunteers, they've done really good work. All right, Mike, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, two things. One is I sent that Discord question about just using the build bundles thing, and just that's the behavior I saw there, and how to get out of that hole, how to get out of that situation was one.
Right.
And the other one was my new library for the DHT11 and DHT22, I still getting errors, and they happen like once every 100 tries.
Oh.
So I really doubt if it's the hardware, but it could be my setup. It's very possible. But I have no oscilloscopes to even prove it one way or the other.
Yeah, my guess is that it's my code.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be that surprised. It's
complicated, right?
Yeah.
Are you just getting misreads?
Mostly they're the checksumming is failing.
I mean, on a Raspberry Pi, I get them a whole lot more frequently than that.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
So we're winning.
I lose a lot. I have some running, and it's pretty hit or miss. But there, I think it's a known issue just because it's not. There's so much else going on the back in the Pi, it can't maintain the timing very well.
Okay.
But so I don't know if that's surprising at all.
Yeah. Well, this could be just a common thing, and we shouldn't worry about it. I mean, we do have try catch logic in there, so in the example.
Right. So somebody can work around it pretty easily.
Easily, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that sounds reasonable. With the 3.0 like ASF4 stuff, we're gonna end up rewriting all of that anyway, so I don't think it's worth. I know. It's like rewriting pretty much like 80% of the code I've done in the last year.
I see.
Something like
3.0.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because of the new library we're switching to.
Okay.
So.
So anyway, getting back to the other one, the build thing. Just to finish off that last subject, I'm not going to report it or anything like that. We're just gonna put it out there, and if someone comments on it, we'll know how to answer it. Is that right?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fine.
Perfect. I mean, I like to work that way kind of anyway, where I get things out there and then I hear back from people about what's important.
Okay.
Rather than spending too much time trying to anticipate what will be important.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that this is a case where it's better to get it out to people than worry about that 1 in 100 chance.
It sounds good. So my little test setup here is with the Metro Express hooked into the OLED SD1306 little display, and then having a DHT 22, which is actually more accurate, and it's kind of cute. It just seemed to work, and it's very reliable. Just runs and runs and runs. So
awesome.
So getting this into the mainstream, though, I think the fact that I had 2 PY files in my library is what's causing the problem. I guess I need to know how to change it to get around that issue.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this a little bit before you hopped on. We need to figure out what a good spot for examples is anyway.
Yes.
And I think having a standard just examples directory, subdirectory.
There was a time in their history where we did.
You sound like you were in a sewer there, Dan. He's muted now.
Yeah, he might be playing around with it.
It was an old web page that woke up and started playing a video. I don't know.
Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think
mm-hmm.
I think having the examples subdirectory would be really cool, because then we could have this build bundle script basically move each examples into like top level examples within the bundle. So you could do like examples /DHT/ and then have a bunch of examples that you could pull from there.
Okay.
The one thing I was thinking about with examples is like if you have cross dependencies where you're depending on another library too, it's not clear to me how we want to do that.
Yeah, this one doesn't have any.
Maybe that's the right way to do it.
There actually, Scott, there is one thing. I tried this on a Gemma M0. Is that right?
Yeah.
Gemma, I don't know. Hema.
Gemma.
And it failed. And the reason why is that Pulse-in isn't in the non-express boards.
Right.
Should we put that in the documentation somewhere?
I thought it was in there.
It's in the support matrix, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know ahead of time that this thing won't work. I can put it in with this particular driver, but it is in the README if you look for it.
Yeah.
Because basically, the problem is I never say I use Pulse-in, and so just looking at the documentation I have so far here, you would never have guessed that it used Pulse-in, and that's the thing that's failing. So there you go.
Yeah, so maybe it would be good in that case to wrap the import in a try except block where you can say like, oh, and like, IO failed, so either in the library.
In the library.
Yeah, just to give a slightly better
error
message.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
I wouldn't do any like board-based detection because we would love to get Pulse.io on the Gemma. That's something that we might attempt for 3.0. So don't be like, let me check the board and see if it doesn't work. Like I think it should be more generic of like try to import it, and then if it fails, do something nicer.
Okay, I can make that edit. That's fine. So I'm glad I brought it up.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
So for in terms of like Python files in the directory, the example can move to a subdirectory.
Yep.
And the lib class.py.mpy, that's just a token name, right, for the actual one? Yeah,
fill in your blank. In this case, it's Adafruit _ DHT lib.ph. So it's the main thing. It's what it's all about.
Cool. That sounds good.
So, and then it ignores conf.ph in the script apparently, right? But
Right.
it must, and then anything else gets bundled into a subdirectory.
Yeah,
So
it's not very smart.
So I'll create that folder and put this example in there, and then I'll retry, and it should work then.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all the help everybody's doing to get more drivers and stuff going. Carter, do you have anything? I don't know if you're... Anything you want to say? / type? I'm pretty sure there's a way you can like have Discord read something out for you. Is it like say? No, I don't know. No, that doesn't work. There's like some permission stuff I've seen about like prompting it to say something. I don't know. We can figure that out later. We don't have to talk about that here. I can't think of anything else. I guess another thing that would be super helpful is my intention was to write a blog post about 3.0 and like what we're going for and how people can help. But one thing that's kind of holding me up on that is I'd love to have beginner-friendly tasks logged in the issues, both in Adafruit, CircuitPython, and potentially other libraries. So if you can think of stuff that's super easy to do that other people could do, please like make those issues and tag them as such. One thing that I think is pretty beginner friendly and would be super helpful is like just driver wrangling, like figuring out all the products that we support and whether they have read the docs and whether they have like kind of the standard setup that we're having for all these new libraries. So I've been meaning to make an issue for that. So maybe I'll do that today. But think about it. Let me know what you think of.
I think I talked about to Dan, like Sigafoos Dan, about this. If there is, I mean, obviously we're not trying to recreate how Arduino does things, but like if there was some kind of user interface where you could be like, okay, well, this is my board. This is the version of CircuitPython that I'm running, and then if it would pull like, here's your learn guide, here's your libraries that are compatible with the board, stuff like that.
Yeah. So
that'd be kind of cool.
We're working with Nicholas Tollervy. He's working on an editor called Miu, and he's doing a lot of rework and wants to integrate like CircuitPython updating and all of that into it, which would be really cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, the other thing that we were thinking about was when we were first doing releases through GitHub, Lamar was like, well, could we have like a page where people like click the picture of the board they have and then just like have one download link to the CircuitPython for it and such? And that would be a place that we could also add other resources as well. Kind of as a board-based landing page. So that
right. I mean, it's all there. It's just right now. It's just kind of have the feeling like you're hopping around.
Right.
Or then that's all.
Wouldn't that help a lot with the library issues as well? Because if you're going to GitHub and you can click on a picture of your Gemma, when you go to those links, we could have at that point a smaller version of the library available to begin with.
Right.
Yeah. I think we're kind of limited. We have this sort of, there are too many tracks for the documentation. There's the learn guide and there's read the docs. And read the docs it's not very beginner friendly.
Right.
And learn guides are good, but there's also no central entry point to learn them. You just do a search and you're not sure which one to start with.
Right.
Product page is not a great place to start either. It just goes the intro one. Maybe we read it in a master CircuitPython learn guide. I'm just thinking it off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think Tony and I talked about this at one of the lunches that we had, and kind of our conclusion was that the the right model was to use the per board guide as that landing page that directs you outwards to other guides and such. Now, we don't actually have that. Like, the nice thing about the learn links from the product page is that they're auto done whenever like somebody is doing a learn guide and they say like, oh, and this product goes on the side. Like that's how they get linked between learn and the product page. But we could do that manually in like the trinket guide and the Gemma guide and all that.
Right.
That would be a starting point at least.
Yeah. Maybe this might be something to discuss with Limor and some other people next week.
Think another suggestion is as much as the number of categories that you can choose from to tag a learn guide is already fairly large, there's like Circuit Playground Express is not in there. And when I first got started, that was actually really difficult for me to find Circuit Playground Express specific guides because I could only search Circuit Playground. So it might be worth mentioning that we can add, or I don't know if we should or not, but add more specific product tags to the options in the learn guides.
Yeah, it's something the learn folks know about and are working on. That's like top of their list is discovery and organization like that.
Yeah, there's actually sort of a massive retagging. There's stuff involving a lot of retagging.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, so it's coming. But yeah, it's a work in progress. Carol's got the awesome pull request for some really good read the docs revamp. So I think it's good. I think it's coming together. I think it's okay that read the docs is not the beginner place. I think that's what learn is for.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, anything else?
I just wanted to give a shout out to Dan and Katney for the other day. I was playing around. I was just reading something on the forum, and there was a question about this Touch.io thing, and this Discord worked perfectly because I was trying to puzzle. I wasn't at home. I couldn't do the testing I wanted to do, so I got the idea of just saying, well, gee, I'll go over to Discord and see who's out there. And I knew Katney had been playing with these, so I just put a note out saying, has anybody seen this? And within a half an hour or so, she'd done all the testing and discovered the problem, and it was really a nice group effort to try and help this guy out without having to drag his question was on the forum, but to bring it here, have people go out and test it and find the solution, then Kenny went back and posted on the forum with all the information he needed. It was really it was fun, and it was just a really nice response, and the system worked really well. That's
awesome. Thank you all for helping with that.
Absolutely.
It's greatly appreciated. Awesome. Well, Jerry, that was a great hug report, to use Adafruit terminology.
Well earned.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. For those of you who might be listening in the future, because I did record this, it looks like it worked. To get into Discord, you can do Adafruit, so ADAFRU.IT. It's Adafruit with a dot before the I. /Discord will get you into Discord. We hang out primarily, well, I do all the channels basically, but CircuitPython has a channel for itself, and now we have a voice chat as well, which is nice. So come in, say hi, and if you're interested in participating in this meeting, you're welcome to. I'm going to end up pinning the meeting times in the CircuitPython channel. So since this is a screencast, I can actually show you. In the top right, there's a pin icon, and it can you can see the things that have been pinned under there, including what time it is. We tend to do Mondays because that's the start of the work week, but we're US based, so if there's a holiday, we will push it back to another day, and this is where to look for that. We also may change the time a little bit, so keep your eye out there as well. So we'll see how this works. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.